There you go. And so let's begin. So what we wanted to happen, and we have seen a lot of growth in the community, right? Like it may not just be me who sees that. I feel like there's a lot more of activity. Someone just mentioned a while ago that we have been losing all the chat logs after a week or two, and I feel like that's a really good problem to have. But again, I think that there are a lot of symptoms, and like we're seeing it, and we're continuously listening to the community in terms of what is ailing it or what are the issues within it. But at the same time, appreciate the good things that are happening in the community. So maybe a good way to start this is to just take a look back of like the fall strategy. And if you checked out the fall strategy, we wrote it before during fall. I think like we released it by October as well. And I think most of you were not members then, but essentially what we were talking about when we said fall strategy was three things. We wanted to really set the tone for the community, which is we wanted to build the network, we wanted to expand the network, we wanted people to use the network. So we wanted to provide that kind of service to people. And I think if I remember correctly, Pat did a machine of sort in Pat did a machine of sort in terms of like explaining what prog code is, and prog code is something that is self-sustaining, that is a sustainable network, because we believe that however each and every single one of us are positioned in the network, like if we leave, the network still stands, but if every one of us leaves, like it will just collapse, right? So as long as there's continuous participation, as long as there's continuous expansion and use and value that people see in the network, I think it will continue on. So maybe let's just discuss how we were able to tick off each and every single one of those goals, like use the network, build the network, and expand the network. So maybe, so in terms of people using the network, and this is such a huge shout out to Joe, and really what he created, the onboarding. And to be honest, I was really against the whole idea of onboarding process, any process for that matter. But it was such a pivotal point in the community that we were able to onboard and direct 100 plus coders or tech volunteers to the projects that we have in the network, and that really empowered and rejuvenated all of the applications on board. And just a perfect example, I think, is that I think a perfect example would be what's this? Oh wow, sorry, 300 people onboarded. So we have been doing onboarding calls every week, every other week since October, and that's been like attended by like 15 people or 15 to 20 in the peak hours. But one of the really good examples of it is what happened with National Voter File. And what happened with National Voter File, whenever like it's one of the first projects that was ever hosted in Prog Code, and we started around July. And during that time, I think Ben Galuski was still struggling, or like was looking for members who will help him build the application, and he was the only one who kept on building it, and he was the only one who worked it. He was really passionate about the National Voter File. But then when we started this process, I think that really took a huge turn, because right now he has 7 people helping him in terms of building a website. It has their own website already. They have covered 7 states, and they are in the process of building the API. So that's within that short span of time, like 3 months, they were able to build that kind of capacity. And I feel like that's also apparent to different applications in the network. So that shows how the dedication of one leader really sets the tone in that project. But at the same time, the handshake between the community outside and the project within really gave that kind of sustenance to each other, because National Voter File has provided so much service and value to the network, and at the same time, the network has provided that kind of value to the National Voter File. So we're really excited how we move forward with that. And in terms of collaboration and ideation, I think we saw how much collaboration has been going on within the community as well. Like we always having that kind of constant rovers, like Joe, Dan, Matt, Tino, everyone else who are just going by from one project to another, sees these kinds of opportunities. And we are the vessels of like collaboration within the network. And that's a way of like us using the network, or us being used by the network, in terms of just dispersing, like we're like butterflies pollinating ideas. And in terms of ideation, I think that's also one of the key things that we really helped out in terms of building ideas, in terms of like phone your rep, for example. I think the constant conversations within that channel through Dan, Joe, Dave, and Rachel, and like now Matt has really created this amazing API that will serve more than like, I think a lot of partners. I think Goldem is also about to use it, and I'm really excited about that. And aside from that, there's also like, I think there are 2 or 3 projects already that stayed in my place here in Queens, and we just talked to each other about for a week straight. So RevHub has already started. RevHub stayed with me for like a week. We just brainstormed. At the same time, Project Swimmy started in my apartment. So we were just like constantly talking and like brainstorming and just figuring out where to start and how to start. So that's one of the services that we want to amplify as well. Like we are that place where people can collaborate, can build ideas, and can push that idea to fruition. And lastly, I think in terms of using the network, we were able to prove ourselves to be the progressive safety net. And by that, I mean, we have become that kind of source of support that people would go to if they need a tech need, right? So one great recent example would be the Women's March. They asked us if we could help them organize, and we created resource.womensmarch.com. It's already part of their website now. They're also doing a Twilio and a mail gun application, and also a bus map that will help them organize on the day itself. And all of this are happening inside our community. Colorado Care was able to use one of our maps, right? And I think Pamela's amazing initiative with the Dakota Access Pipe. I'm just really still blown away by it, Pamela. She was able to spearhead this effort of helping the water protectors, because they approached us and like they need a way for them to help to connect to the internet, and just in 48 hours we were able to set up a fundraising, a plan, a diagram, all of those aspects in terms of just helping them out build, and I think it was a success. No, they were able to raise the funds they need. They were able to get the utilities involved. Like it all started with the effort. It started with folks on the ground, but also like we were a ready hand support to them. Building the network. Well, we were able to through the awesome work of Joe and the community engagement team, we were able to constantly introduce people to the community. We were able to create tools like the Airtable. We have created the Airtable, the Team Up, the Trello, all of those tools that we're using right now. Progbot, like we have a robot already. These are things that we are using to introduce people, to onboard them, and to really engage them into our community. And right now, I think there's this massive energy of just collaboration and communication, and more community spaces. More community spaces. We have been partnering up as well. Like one of the things that we really wanted to happen is that we build a network and collaborate with communities that are of likeness to us. So right now, I think we're connected to ThoughtWorks. We have a really good relationship with people in ThoughtWorks. We have a really good relationship with people in Civic Hall here in New York. And ThoughtWorks has opened their doors to us. We can hang out there, or we can set up office there for free. And there is also another what's this? Another community there called Make a Diff, which is like a 600 member community of coders that are still learning and they want to collaborate with us. And right now, as you see, like there's this budding relationship with folks from Debug Politics, and they're also willing to share their resources to us. And lastly, I think expanding the network, like we always believe that we are stronger. The network is stronger within if it's strong outside of it as well. So we wanted to have this kind of partnerships outside the network. And during this period, the fall, it was such an immense experience for most of the members because we were able to talk to the European Greens and the European Socialists, most of the major parties of Europe, and we were able to impart a lot of information and knowledge that we picked up during the Bernie Sanders campaign, during the general campaign, and like just how technology has affected politics here and abroad. And I think that the European Greens in particular, I just wanted to share about this totally not connected. Like I think they were able to use a lot of our techniques, a lot of the culture that we were able to set up, which is really exciting. And Joe was able to go to Prague to impart like the importance of culture. We were able to impart the tools that we were being able to create, and that allows us to provide more service to the application partners we have, because we are able to expose the people to their works. We're now also member of the People Summit Network, which is connected to the Nurses Union, to different labor unions, to different progressive organizations. We also have a really good relationship right now with MoveOn.org, with the OSDI community, which is connected to Action Network and all of the progressive tech companies. And yeah, so ThoughtWorks, Civical, and Make a Diff. So that's what happened this quarter. And I feel like I tried to sum it up like very shortly, but I think despite the fact that there was this kind of boom, like energy surrounding the network, and I'm really excited for the next 3 months as well. I think we have been seeing a lot of good problems, or just problems. They may be bad as well, I don't know, but there are a lot of problems that we have been seeing. But anyone want to say something before I continue to discuss the problems that we have? And if you could agree with it, or questions? Nope. Okay. So, one of the things that we are always keen about is to listen to the community, even though they're not really speaking to us as much. But listening and finding what are the issues, or what is wrong, or where can we improve on. And I think that's really a crucial thing for us to have in order for us to become a better community, is where we keep on listening to what's happening within the community. And we see these problems pop up in different phases. I think there were some issues wherein there's some conflict created because of ideas being brought up, and or just people not knowing, or keep on asking questions about what's the status of this, what's the status of that, or just complaining that Slack has been too fast for them to follow. And I think these are really important symptoms of underlying problems that are happening as we grow as a community. And even though we have a boom, or like a huge boost of like membership, or like energy and the projects involved, there are still issues with communication, ownership, and camaraderie. I think one of the things that we really wanted to point out was that Slack is not enough. Like Slack is just Slack, and I feel like we are getting to that limit of their service to us. And unless we can create a way for us to have Slack as an upgraded version, or like find another solution entirely that will be sustainable, I think we need to work around it and find different solutions for it. One reason is that people are always lost in conversation. People are there's a lot of space. We lose conversations after a week, and it's just not a sustainable way for us moving forward as we grow to like 1,000 or 2,000. It's not scalable. And but the thing is that a lot of members really like being in our Slack. Like I think it's such a fast way for us to transfer volunteers or members or like new coders or contributors to different projects. So I guess we wanted to build on that idea. And yeah, do you want to speak about this, Joe?
Sure. Just, I think Project Swimmy is sort of my answer to everything. And if those aren't familiar, the core goal of Project Swimmy is to provide a location-based way for people to interact with, connect on issues, also upskilling. The specific way that we're looking at it, though, is providing a very vanilla interface up front, a very customizable experience that could do a lot of things. And just the different functionality that we've been talking about in support of the application, I think really does support more of a scaled collaboration. I look at Slack a lot of times as it scales to probably 1,000, maybe 2,000 people, depending on processes and systems and things set up. But it's just not going to be the long-term solution. It may always be a component, but not the primary component. And so I look at Project Swimmy as having a lot of what Slack could offer, but also having functionality that you would see in Reddit or Twitter or other places as well, and sort of a best of many worlds approach to it. And so I definitely encourage people to check that one out. I expect a lot of exciting things to happen with it.
Thank you. And so moving further, like creation and ownership, I feel like one thing as well that people have been complaining about is that there's just no way for them to plug into the community if they choose to. Like the pathways are not as clear from entry to contribution. So I think that there has to be ways for us to provide that kind of easy access in terms of the information, access to just how or where to start. And I think that onboarding is such a great way to go about it. But at the same time, like folks need a way for a static version of the onboarding where we can just provide that kind of service of just letting them know what's happening. And again, camaraderie, I think, again, Slack, like this is going to be a movement. I feel like the network is going to be bigger than itself right now. And if we don't create that kind of strong relationships or strong camaraderie, but within the members of it, I think that it will come as a bluster at most. And I feel like I'm being a pessimist here, but just one good example is that last week I was able to meet up with Joe and with Pat, and it was just a really good experience for us to have that kind of tangible meetup or tangible relationship, and having this kind of distributed environment really does not allow for a strong bond or relationship for folks who are very much focused or passionate about issues. And I'm leading, of course, towards an offsite, but but we will discuss that further. But given these problems, I think the values that we need to stick with is the idea that we are non-hierarchical. We want to increase ownership. We want to be collaborative. It should be distributive, and it should plug into an existing behavior. So having these ideas or having these values in place really lends to like it really gave us a lot to think about and so much research and how to move forward together. Like how can we increase ownership, or how can we be more collaborative and distributive? And I think that in our meetings, like Joe, when I was in Joe's place in Pennsylvania, it was like it hit us like we need to have a change process, and we need to have like a way for people to know exactly who to go to, where to go to, if they want to if they want to affect change to the community or to their actual community. And I think that's something that is still not clear right now. And this is a good time for us to really focus inside, because we are already known, like we have created so much partnerships outside that they will come to us, or there's a lot incoming. Like For example, in New York alone, like there's going to be a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions throughout January, March, February, and March about how do we move the progressive movement forward, provided these realities that we face right now. That's the ongoing thing at the moment. But we really want to focus on the idea that we have to stick together. We have to create this culture wherein we want to remove the influence of big money in politics. And we solve that by creating tools that are accessible to the grassroots movement. I mean, that's the theory of the case here. And you're here because you believe in that message as well. You're here because you have that idea that really empowers the people at large. So, without further ado, I think I'll just present like a quick solution. And I feel like I've talked to folks about this already. And we decided to move to try the idea of piloting. We need to present a way for people to have no risk or less risk involved in starting stuff that they want to work on. And I feel that kind of attitude we have to proliferate and encourage people to take on as we move forward into a more distributed and like collaborative atmosphere. And Joe, do you want to speak, because I'm losing my I need to drink.
Oh yeah, just somewhere. Yeah. Well, as I was back just a second ago, I wanted to really add on and emphasize what Rapi was just talking about. Just based on what I've seen, based on I think what everyone's seen in the community, is that there's just such an amazing opportunity for Prog Code right now for everybody involved, where there are so many different extremely influential groups, extremely influential people working on similar things to us, coming to us, being part of the community, but also really looking up to us. And I think we have a huge opportunity to be leaders, because there's so many that are coming to us and are looking for places where their volunteers can plug in for help with projects like Women's March. And this is just the very, very tip of the iceberg. This is still the time between when Donald Trump won the election and when Donald Trump was president. So it's not necessarily the most inspired time ever to go and do things. So the momentum is just going to pick up so much. But I think we just have such an amazing opportunity to just be a huge force. And for those people that do look at us, and even though I think we still have an extremely long way to go, and we're still very mature in what we're doing, but that we're just moving in the right direction. There's so many that are just looking at us as leaders, and I'm very excited for what we are going to be able to accomplish together.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like just having that kind of machine, right? Like I alluded earlier to a machine, and I feel like we need to have at least being a distributed network or distributed community. We have to think about how we can be a well-functioning machine without being hierarchical, and that's a challenge here. Like and taking from the playbook of Occupy and Momentum UK, like one of the things that they just really did was create a strategy, put a strategy online and let people own it. And I feel like that's what we've been trying to allude to as well, like moving towards something more of a, this is the central strategy. Do you want to change it? Good. Add your, change it or like edit it as you will. The same thing that we've been doing in the manifesto document of Prog Code. But the center of this is that we just really want to have a space where people can go and reliably present them what's happening in the community, what's happening in the projects. That allows us to, and it's such a simple solution really, because it is already plugged into people's behavior. GitHub, most of our members already are part of GitHub, and those who haven't, like, it's really easy to get involved here. I think, Stephen, you've mentioned that Canban has been like a really helpful tool for you. And it's really awesome that folks have been using or are familiar with Canban, because that essentially is what we're trying to work on at the moment, which is, divide the community into functions according to what Joe has presented before. And through that, find ways for us to add on or solve a problem within that function. And so we created this GitHub project wherein we could just we could show the initiatives or like the pilots that we have been working on. And right now, since it's still in its infancy, we're still filling it up. But you will see like the different aspects of the network, wherein we want this to be the central place where people, if they're lost, they don't have to ask us. They just have to go here and see, okay, so this is what's happening in audience outreach or partners outreach or evangelism. And within this, like, it's really easy to get, actually. I don't know why I call this meeting, but I just want to see your faces. But it's essentially just knowing who the coordinator is, knowing when the meetings are, and the description in a wiki, and then ask you to start a pilot. But for the fun of it, let's just go through the whole thing. When you click on wiki, you will see all the roles that are about the audience outreach. And we will just fill out the wiki as we move along as an organization. So for those who want to read or to know more and are engaged through reading, they could use this. One of the things that we want to use as well, or pilot, is to create videos wherein we would explain, or these kinds of videos wherein we would want to engage with them and tell them our roles, etc. But whenever someone has an idea or someone wants to create something that would benefit the community, they would just have to propose it on site, and someone, maybe themselves as well, could add it as a pilot. So for example, I think Rachel picked up or proposed hey, maybe we should have a weekly update. So it's pilot. It's non-committal. It's not really, nothing's wedged on it, or nothing's really invested in it, but it is something that you're passionate about, and we want people to know about it, and just to see that, oh, this is happening in the community. Because otherwise, we have to have a way to document things that are inside our community. Otherwise, people are just going to be lost or have no idea what's happening. So when you click here, you will just see problem, solution, or more details. And then if you want to engage, just add in the comment, whatever, and that's it. This was taken and is inspired mostly by what Chai Hacknight has been doing. They've been using GitHub, repurposing GitHub to set the projects in their community and allow people to engage with the projects by just commenting in it, or saying upvote or downvote. Yay! and they have really utilized GitHub into a way for them to really engage with people, because they understand that their community are already coders, right? And I think that's one thing that we really need to understand as we move forward. Who is our audience? What does our audience know? Because maybe Trello may not have been the best solution at the moment because it wasn't part of a universal behavior. Airtable is really good, but there's a level of adoption that has to be climbed up by those who are administering. Once you do it, it's really nice, but there's still this cognitive gap between it. GitHub doesn't have that kind of gap, and I think that we're trying to leverage that, and hopefully we'll use this. One of the things that we need to work on is how to make this ubiquitous. I think that's one of the things that the community engagement team has to commit, and it's a behavioral shift for us, because we need to see this as a way to serve the community. We need to find this as a way to let people know what's happening in it, because no one knows what's happening in the moment. They have to ask me, they have to ask Joe about what's happening, or if this initiative has already started. And that's the thing about this kind. It shoots two birds with one stone, which is we are encouraging more creation and more ownership, and at the same time fixing that communications gap that we have. So yeah, does anyone have questions or issues about this moving forward? Or is this enough to solve the communications issue? Or is it something that is lacking or something? Go, Stephen.
I just wanted to harken back to our conversation last night, where the idea was proposed. I think it was Joe, or maybe it was Dave, that we have a link in the Slack channels to this GitHub setup, whereby that ends up being the dashboard.
Yeah.
which we thought would be helpful at addressing the issue of people getting lost in the channels and having to scroll back several days. Well, we may have not have that option as time is going on, but at least to give a place that people could go to get this information and know that that's where they could find it.
Yep. I think that's for the best. And I think that's one, like, after this, I'm going to finalize the write-up. I think that's one of the things that we need to do, right? There has to be, like, one of the action items is for us to include this dashboard throughout Slack and just really lead people out of Slack at points. Like, because most of the activities now are happening in Slack, and we need to find a way for us to veer it off at some point and use Slack as a way to just communicate with people. What we did recently is Joe and I have moved out of Slack and just engaged with new members through email. So that's one thing that we're really trying to push for, is that we want them to do activities outside of our community and not see ProgCode as this insular entity, right? That we are outside of Slack as well. So I think that hopefully that's going to be a point that we will impart to the people. Any more stacks, Matt?
Okay, so I'm a little confused. Is this going to be just at the top level for ProgCode, or will this also be for each project? They would be on GitHub and use this project sort of Trello-esque view.
So, so most of the projects and all of the projects in ProgCode are not owned by us. Like, they choose to live with us within the community. So it's more of a service that we will provide them, but we will not impose on them, like, providing that kind of service wherein people will find out what's happening because we're asking the community, or we are included in that community, or we are plugged into what's happening in that channel. So do you mind, so Stephen, do you mind explaining that? But one of the things we want to encourage is for them to use best practices in terms of how they could plug with us. So I think that's one of the things we have to move forward and need to take note of, wherein we need to understand that we are a community, but we need to also impart best practices for them to optimally plug in with what we're doing. So, but not imposing anything at all. But Stephen, do you want to add on to that?
Well, you're asking a non-coder to explain something that a coder proposed, but what he's suggested, and he's chatted with us about this in another group, something that he did for us in Connect with Bernie, where, and again, I have no idea how this works. It's one of those magical things that, as Pamela was saying earlier today, he apparently is able to use scripts to go through and clean up the channels, download the information to consolidate it and get it off the Slack, and thereby saving space. Pamela, I don't know if you understand this any better than I do. Maybe you can speak to it if you know.
Yeah, a little bit. What he did previously is different from what he's proposing today. There is an API that exists that he was able to tweak a little bit that would go through. In our Slacks, the activist Slacks, it's very heavy with links to tweets and social media and lots of graphics that take up a lot of space. And multiple versions of the graphics, because you'll get them in English and Spanish, and so it's a huge it just chows all the space in the Slack. So he figured out a way to download old images and messages that were not in private conversations, and to put them into one location, and then then we wouldn't lose so many messages. But what he proposed today is writing an API which would in these volunteer Slacks too, we get people of all different levels of understanding technology and not understanding technology, where Slack is their first first venture out of Facebook sometimes.
Mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm in one Slack where nobody has created any emojis. Any, I know that seems like a minor thing, but nobody knows how to do it, or even that they have the ability to do it. So that just, to me, demonstrates there are really different levels of knowledge. So some of our graphic artists like to use Dropbox. Some of them prefer to use Google Docs. Some people are concerned about privacy and they won't use a Gmail account, so they have issues with the Google stuff. So the artists have different preferences. So he was proposing an idea that as soon as somebody posts an image, that the bot picks it up and drops it into the Dropbox or into Google Docs or Google Drive or whatever, and then posts a link where that image used to be. Just automatically, where the person they don't have to try to conform with somebody else's method for storing data. It just automatically happens, which didn't go over well, I think, with some coders, the thought, because there are other ways you can work around it. But for non-coders, that would be a magnificent help.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That is really well noted. I think there has to be a way for us to make this more sustainable as well as a Slack experience. But one of the things that I think I'm really looking forward to, and I'll speak to this more later, is when we get our not-for-profit, non-profit status. I think Slack provides a lot of capacity, or like a lot of perks for those who are nonprofit. So we can have a free upgrade, I think, and that's something that we really need. I'll discuss it more further later. But Stack, Joe, you stacked. I just called you Stack.
That's a lovely name. Really interesting on a number of different things. I think, Steve, I think that the first one, it's one that I've been thinking about for quite some time. It's one that probably maybe we need to create an issue. Is like, what does our overall sort of data storage, location and folder hierarchy and all that stuff, what does that like actually look like? Right now, I know there's just stuff all over the place, and it's okay, it gets the job done, but like, where do we go? And so it's something I'm definitely really interested in, and if you and Pamela and any others are interested in that too, like maybe like really coming together, like thinking about that. And then I'm also like very immediately interested in sort of the plan that Pamela was talking about, the latter parts of it, because I think there's like a lot of opportunity for like it almost sounds like a metadata repository of it's the storage of sorts, or just has everything aggregated. I think it's also a really good opportunity for like the work that we're doing with ProgBot as part of like the website revamp, and there's a ProgBot channel too, I think. But like those are definitely things that could go in, and I think really diving into and adopting this this GitHub repo, as Rapi said, and doing things like posting these different opportunities up there, and that we can point people to, and it can be just more tangible for them. Like, I think that's really what is going to make the difference. I'm very excited about that, especially as we everyone works together on that. Another thing I wanted to clarify, mention, like when Rapi said that we're speaking to other people through email, it's also for people that are applying to onboarding with the group, but even before they get their Slack invites, or even before they necessarily get accepted. And Rapi and others do go through every single invite and and actually make sure that they are a good fit for the community, for the culture. So you don't automatically get in just by signing up and say, so for everyone here, good job, you made it through. But he does look at, did you read the manifesto? Why are you here? What do you care about? Like, are you a good fit for the community? And no skill requirement or anything, no political identity requirement, but having the passion and then just on one question on sort of how does this work that Matt made, I could see this as sort of like sort of like a hybrid approach potentially, where we either cross-link down to maybe there's their own project which runs like a more of a normal, typical Kanban board, maybe even links to other Trello boards that people decide they still want to use Trello. But the idea is that this at least becomes the higher level main area for information. So it's any person can go to it. But I think the biggest thing of all for this is that that we're absolutely open for suggestions for ideas. Like this is something that's barely 24 hours old at this point. Like we know we need the central location, and the primary thought was, let's just pick something, go with it. We will improve and learn with time. And actually just sitting on it for a day and I was excited about it yesterday, but like coming back for a day, like now, like it really makes sense. And listening to Rafi talking about it really makes sense. But absolutely looking for feedback and how this can improve and what people are interested in and all that good stuff.
And I'm going. Thanks, Joe. And I'm going into this with the attitude that this is also a pilot. That this will fail if we don't push it, or it will be successful if we do push it. But in terms of like how do I see this as a success, or like what do I consider success, is that if people will stop asking people will stop asking me questions. No, when people would just be self-sustaining, self-starters, there will be like community engagement means them asking people, hey, that's a good idea, why not add this to the pilot board or something like that. Like that's a good way to engage people, because once you see a good idea or like an idea, any idea, we would want to keep that or like bring that to fruition. Because one of the things that I've written this, like one of the things that is really important in our community are ideas, right? Like, and we have so many progressive ideas in it, and it's not just in a political progressive, but rather like a progressive in terms of a creative way of moving things forward. And I think Tanya has written an amazing thing about like how to become an open source society, and I think that's a really great vision. And I feel like having that kind of attitude moving forward, we can see how creation, camaraderie, and just creativity can really be pushed out if we have this kind of central source of information and a way for us to collaborate with people as well. So if you're thinking, or if you're thinking of like becoming a community engagement, or I think I've asked folks to lead this. Dave has already expressed his interest in driving this idea as well. So we need ways to keep the documentation going, to keep engaging people into contributing here, like just having this full-on ubiquitous throughout the community. So I see this. If people start contributing to the community on their own, and like just start to just add on to this however, whenever, I think that's a really good point of success. So I hope in 3 months that's what we're going to see here. And lastly, I think, so that's 2 balls, right, in 1 stone. So lastly, I'll go back to my keynote. I just want, so I'm just putting this up, but I'm gonna stop sharing now. So lastly, I just want to mention about this. This is the season, or this is the term wherein, oh, sorry, I forgot one more thing. So going back to sharing my screen here, as you can see, where is it? Oh no. Can you see my screen? Okay. As you can see here, there's coordinators, and these coordinators can be anyone. And one of the things that we really want to encourage is non-hierarchical, but where does the power come from? It's more on the influence of people who are actively participating. Like we believe in Progco that we do not impose, or we do not force people to do something that they don't want, but we do want to encourage folks who are passionate about what they're doing, and through that, like, build on their own social capital through this network. And we are driven by our efforts. We are driven by the contribution we have done to the community. So one of the things that we are going to impose is that, for example, right now, coordinators for different functions are by terms. So at the moment, during fall, the audience outreach was Dan. But if people want to take this on for winter, you will definitely be tapped, or reach out to us if you want to work on these roles of like developing a marketing, or creating, or reaching out to social networks, or building out audience for the, or just expanding us. And it doesn't have to be that you're the coordinator alone, but it means that you are part of that leadership team of like just being a driver for that effort. So there can be multiple coordinators, there can be like contributing members, but those are just essentially ways for us to engage with people and like become more sustainable network of networks sort of thing, wherein your audience outreach is part of the network, but at the same time, like operations is also part of the network. So we are treating these functions as ways for us to be more sustainable, and just pinpoint like the idea of a network. Joe.
Yeah, you pretty much actually circle back and said it at the end, but I did definitely want to emphasize that it's definitely not a hierarchical thing. It's not, the coordinator isn't the person who's in charge of this, or the person that it's always should be a community and collaborative decision-making process. They're just sort of more of, I would look at it as the point person to go to. They will, of course, there's the board as the main point. That's the point object, but for the point person, they would be the one to go to. Hey, what's going on? Whatever questions. And I think also that it's definitely one to many coordinators is really important. What I have been thinking about is potentially making it that like needing to be a staff member, needing to like go through whatever sort of process like that we're all here would like these sort of people would obviously be there already, but like what does that process look like as new people come on? But making sure that those people, and then making it maybe that you only sign up as a coordinator for one functional area at a time. Of course, you can contribute to many different functional areas, but it at least shows where your priority focus is. And maybe another is that we change that you can't be a coordinator the same thing twice in a row, something like that. So again, the brand new things. So these are all just live ideas of ways that we can do it, but these are definitely where having a collaboration with everybody, getting people's feedback of what they think works best and is most effective, and all those is just extremely valuable.
And yeah, it is more of a responsibility and authority, and it actually again shoots two birds with one stone, because this allows us to keep on moving around the network as well. So if Joe doesn't want to work on operations anymore, like he can choose, or like he can take on more of a evangelist point of view or something like that. But I'm gonna be an evangelist. But and so I guess that's, and finally I think it's more of a point person rather than anything. It's we want to have as many self-starter as much as possible. So it's either you take on that role without asking anyone's permission, or we will tap you into like, hey, you're doing a lot of things that you want to be a coordinator or something like that. But it's and to that point, finally, I think it's a good way to segue to the fact that the board members are just really like for legal structure only. Like it's very arbitrary, and we really want to emphasize the fact that it's only like we are a collaborative, non-hierarchical entity. And I keep on saying non-hierarchical, but it doesn't mean there's no organization or there's no leader. Of course, there are leaders that are going to be pushed up, and we want to push those leaders up, and we want them to be the self-starters, and like we really want to empower that kind of leadership, that kind of ownership, but at the same time allow people to grab that kind of leadership as well without waiting for anyone's permission. So I hope that through this network, through this system, we will be able to like through this kind of system, we will be able to cultivate that kind of culture. So finally, I think we're about to end our time here. But finally, this winter, I think, will be the time that we are going to get our 501c4 status. So I'm closely working with Stephen. Thank you so much again. And I'm canceling the process of with my New York lawyer as per I used Ask Per with Stephen's advice, but said, given that, we need to think now of ways wherein we can create value and provide reason why we really exist, right? And we exist because we want to support the applications that are going to empower the grassroots. That's what this network is about. And I feel that having those systems in place, those ideation, collaboration, and just easing all the friction, like having this kind of culture of just listening to what is ailing the community, really provides us a good base of what we want to happen. And I think one of the things that we really want to happen by the end of this season is for leaders or application leaders or community leaders to have a way for us to gather together in an offsite and find ways for us to fund that kind of event. Because I think Michael Haggerty was the one who really drove the point that we need to have a way for us to gather in one place and just really brainstorm on what to do next or what to do moving forward. And I feel that that's really important, especially at this point in time. And not only that, but more so than an event, I think the most important thing we need to do is how can we provide structures like that needs financing but can really benefit our membership or like the projects that are living here. So what that means is we want to have like DevOps support or like just plainly the kind of support that we are already giving but more full time, like creating ideation or like collaboration, suggestion or like advice. The network that we're bringing into the table and just continuously reaching out to other networks as well. I think that provides as much value to the community more so, and also just building teams that really builds on their existing team capacity. So that's going to be part of the strategy. I think it's really going to be a really long document. I'm still not done, but I think it's going to be a 3-parter wherein it includes where we are, where we want to go, and how do we get there. So those are the 3 things that I'm going to release soon, and I hope you all read it. But do you have any questions so far? And before we close this session, and I think just wanted to say as well that Anna has presented herself to be the one to drive much of the fundraising. She has learned so much in terms of fundraising for projects. And I think that given the structure that we have at the moment, that a lot of these projects are LLC, I think that really lends her expertise in terms of strategically creating ways for us to be that incubator, accelerator, like driver for these products to really come to a fruition. So yeah, any questions or things that you want to raise? Tanya, do you want to say something? No? Okay. I guess that's it then. Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. But yay. So yeah, if there's any more questions or issues, I'll be very much open to discussion. But moving forward, I think the main thing that will really test this this season, if it's a success or not, is how engaged or how committed and close, or how much ownership does each and every single member we have to the community. I think if we're thinking about how each and every single one of the members, or like at least the active ones, continuously think of how to add value to the community, I think that's the whole point of this strategy. And we're looking inward, mainly because it's winter and it's really cold outside. But we want to just build on to what we have right now. And then by spring, it was really strategic because that's when a lot of the grassroots or campaigns are starting to shop for projects. So that's one thing. And also a lot of conferences are happening during spring and summer. So We have been invited to Organizing 2.0 in New York, and whoever wants to join in are free to engage with me. So and also there are a lot of engagement opportunities in other parts of the country as well. So I'll let you know as they come in. But yeah, does anyone want to say something other than I'm Joe? I'm just tired of hearing my voice as well. No?
I do. I want to say, I just want to say good luck, Tanya, on those NFL picks. That's really all I have to say. I think it was a great meeting. It was very informative and exciting.
Thank you. Okay, this is really good. And I will be engaging with every single, and Tanya, good luck with your NFL pick. I hope you win, right? Is that how it goes? But yeah. Anyway, good night, everyone. Thank you so much. This was really good. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thanks. See you later.
Awesome stuff, everybody.